Hi there, it's Clemens Rettich here with another Business on the Road talk. It's Tuesday, April 23rd, 2013. And the question I had for this talk was around cash flow. What is it and what's the problem? So a quick go through what cash flow is. Cash flow basically is the measurement of your business's ability to pay its bills at the end of the month. And it's a little bit different from simple profitability in that whereas profit is the money that you get to keep from your sales after you've paid your expenses, of which cash flow is a piece as well. It does measure the relationship between the money you got coming in and the money you've got going out. The difference between the two, between profit and cash flow, is that when you're talking about cash flow, your accounts receivable and your accounts payable factor in, and here's how it works. So you might have, for instance, $1,000 in sales and $600 in expenses, so you should have $400 in profit. Completely oversimplified, but it makes it clear and easy to understand. Is it possible to still get yourself in trouble with those kinds of numbers? Yes, it is, and here's the very simple reason why. If you don't actually collect on that $1,000 right away, because say you've issued an invoice and that invoice isn't payable for 30 days and you have expenses that are payable immediately, those $600 from your suppliers or employees, whatever, it's part of your labor costs, are payable before you can collect on that invoice, you have a cash flow problem. So you're profitable, you've made $400 in profit on the books on your profit and loss statement, on your income statement. But in fact, you still can have a cash flow problem even though you're profitable because of how your accounts payable and how your accounts receivable relate to each other. One of the very frustrating ironies for small business owners is that one of the most challenging times to deal with cash flow is when you are doing your very best. Let me give you an example. Say your marketing campaign really takes hold. You're doing a great job out there, providing great service, great products. Your marketing campaign is very effective, and your business suddenly goes vertical. Orders, demand are through the roof. How do you meet that demand? Well, you increase capacity. So you hire new people, buy new inventory, buy new machinery, whatever it takes. This is where cash flow starts to become a problem, because much of that labor from the increase in employees, increase in inventory, increase in equipment, supplies and machinery, those are typically costs that are payable, if not upfront, then relatively soon. Whereas the money you've got coming in might not, even if you get a brand new customers and all that starts to show up tomorrow, does not necessarily mean, based on the example I gave you earlier about the invoices and so on, might not mean that it's money you're going to see for 30 days, and that's assuming that customers pay on time. So a business that is suddenly successful in terms of sales and its marketing campaign can actually create for itself cash flow problems, because the money from that success shows up later than the expenses of increasing capacity to meet that new demand. The relationship between those two creates cash flow problems. That was really awkward, but you get what I mean. You understand what I'm saying, I think. I hope. So then the question is, okay, what do you do about it? What are the things you can do to improve cash flow problems? The first one and the most obvious one is, of course, to manage your expenses. Just watch your expenses very closely. I believe that a business owner needs to micromanage two areas if they micromanage no other areas at all. One is your customer's experience in terms of their relationship with you, the customer service and so on. Every point of contact that a customer has with you needs to be micromanaged by the ownership of the business. The other area is expenses. Watch your expenses very closely. Try to match expenses to the margins that you expect, your profit margins, expected profit margins on your business as closely as possible. We will often have to invest ahead of anticipated revenues in new workforces, larger workforces, more equipment, inventory, more stuff to stock the shelves. But it just needs to be watched very closely. Don't get too optimistic, don't get too enthusiastic. There's no other way to it. This is not a magic bullet kind of thing. You just need to watch it. You can't fall asleep at the switch when it comes to watching your expenses. The other thing you need to do, since cash flow, as I said, is largely a function of your accounts payable and your accounts receivable, the other thing that you should be watching very closely is the terms. Not so much the dollar amounts, we'll talk about that in just a sec, but the terms. That is, can you do anything legitimately to stretch out your payments for as long as possible while collecting on your receivables as quickly as possible, so that you can realize as much of the sales into money in your pocket or money into your bank account as much in advance of the expenses are going to come in as possible. I encourage businesses sometimes to look at trading margins for that timing. And what I mean by that is, consider offering suppliers perhaps a slightly better price on their supplies if they will yield you better terms, a little bit longer time frame to pay it in. Conversely, offer your customers perhaps a bit of a discount if they're prepared to pay sooner. Faster payment, because it helps cash flow, is worth something to you, and sometimes it's worth a few points on your margins. Not always, but it's something you need to be aware of. The time, trading time for money and money for time, is something that you have the ability to do in a business, and it's something that particularly small business owners new to this way of thinking sometimes don't think of. They're stuck on their margins and then get themselves into cash flow problems and don't realize that by bartering on the terms or negotiating on the terms of the margins, both for the receivables and the payables, to slow one down and speed the other one up, is something that's definitely something you can be looking at. A third area is looking at subscription payments. So what I mean by that is, I use that because it's like magazine subscriptions. Is there anything you can do in your business to realize regular drip payments, just like a magazine subscription? So getting customers to pay you monthly on something. So there's a very level amount of money, that predictable amount of money that comes in each month. And finally, look at different revenue streams, particularly if you can mix those revenue streams up in a way that perhaps increases the margins on some but extends the payable or extends the receivables, or shrinking the margins on others and collecting that money sooner. So maybe there's one service or product you can offer that you can collect on a little bit more often or a little more quickly. It moves a little bit more often. It just moves money through your accounts more quickly, even if the margins aren't there. And then other products or services, SKUs, whatever it is that you're measuring, whatever kind of business you're in, that may not contribute to cash flow because you only perhaps sell one or two of them a month, or when you do sell, they're single large lump sum payments. So they're not that great for predictable cash flow, but they're very profitable. And what you want in a healthy business, where it's possible, is a mix of both. You don't want highly profitable jobs of which you get one every 3 months and then giant lump sum payments, so you've got a feast and famine situation. At the same time, you also don't want regular predictable work, but at very, very low profit margins. If you can create different revenue streams, different products, different services that are a mix of those two things, then that is another way of dealing with cash flow problems and improving your cash flow situation in your business. So there you go. I hope that was helpful. I hope that answers the questions that I've had come in about cash flow. It's Clemens Rettich and Business on the Road. Have a great day. Go out there and make some money.